So welcome everybody. Welcome to the Austin Tableau user group. We have a great program lined up for you today, and we're excited that you are going to be spending the next little bit of time with us. First of all, welcome from Austin, Texas. But I got to tell you, I think a lot of our folks are are all over the United States and sometimes from other parts of the world. This is our advisory council that works together to create these events. And should you have time and interest in your schedule to get involved with marketing or planning events, or want to go to that next step with networking with others, I really would encourage you to contact our main sponsor, Chris Monahan. He is normally the MC of this meeting, and I am subbing for him today. I'm Celia Fryer. I'm also on the advisory council, and alongside my co-host, Homer, and we are pleased to be bringing this to you today and encourage you to jump in and get involved if you'd like. Today's agenda, we're going to talk just briefly about our meeting normals, but we have two tremendous speakers today for you. One is our community spotlight that is going to be Amy Wu. She's been with the advisory council. Gosh, Amy, how long have you been part of the Austin Tub? A lot longer
since before 2020, so a while now.
There we go. Pre-COVID, it's like the delineator for a lot of things, right? But she's joined us today so that we can introduce you more broadly to her, and then and share from her experience. And then we'll be handing the baton to Lisa Trescott, who you guys may have seen or heard from, as she has quite the voice in the Tableau community. And we'll do more introduction for her in just a moment. Also a former Iron Viz winner. We've been very fortunate to get to hear from several this year. So we really appreciate Lisa carving that time for us. So being a virtual meeting, we're just going to ask you while you're not speaking, if you kindly be on mute. And then we definitely will be looking for questions and interactivity. The chat is a perfect place for that. Homer usually is our bird's eye view on that. He's going to keep an eye on it, and we'll be being sure that we get those questions filtered into our speakers. So please feel free to jump in there, and just to get the party started, it'd be great if you guys would just say hello and where you're dialing in from, and so that we can just see who's out there in our audience today. What's coming up for us after this? We have October mapped out with Ojo Basu. He's a Tableau ambassador and also a TC25 speaker. He's also a daytime professional with BI and Tableau and analytics, and out of Canada. Then we have another Iron Viz winner coming in November, Will Sutton from the UK. And notice that the time that we normally do this time slot, the afternoon, and that one particular one we're going to do a little earlier. And we usually have take December as a in-person holiday gathering, and we'll have more details about that when we get a little bit closer. We're also going to have a little bit more of a focus, by the way, in October on Tableau Next and AI in Tableau, so that if you're interested in that, please join us, as that will be the focus that will be dialing in on that in October. For those of you who are into Salesforce and that have that as part of your purview of tools you're using, please consider October 14th through 16th in San Francisco. I think, Lisa, are you and both of you guys going? Or Lisa, I know Lisa will be there, right?
I will be there, yes.
Awesome. And so Dreamforce, with its big focus on agents and Tableau integration this year with Tableau Next. Today, when we are finished, we'll also share an invite with you in the Slack channel to join the Tableau community Slack channel, which is now up to about 15,000 members strong. It's a environment, if you aren't a Slack user, it's a fantastic way to do some instant messaging with folks of all walks of life around the world, and also different levels of skills. Some of us are just getting started with it. Some have been in the Tableau ecosystem since 15 years ago. So it's a great way to connect with others who are looking to accomplish much the same kind of goals in the workplace, and then also to get support and help from each other. It's always been remarkable to me how much support and encouragement happens there. It's remarkable. And then also that's a good place to find out about community events and various announcements and things that are happening with Tableau releases. So we'll get that out into the Slack channel, into the Zoom chat in just a moment. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Amy Wu. She has been part of the advisory council for many years, as we just mentioned a minute ago. And she also has been a very active member of the Tableau community, having been an ambassador many years, also co-leading not only working with the group here in Austin, but then she's been in Boston for about a year, right, Amy? Is that about?
Yeah, it's been about a year.
About a year. And so she's co-leading the Boston Tableau user group there. And I'm going to turn the baton over to her and let her tell you a lot more about herself. But she has been very much a positive force for good in the Austin community here, helping the Tableau users grow more of a community and bringing great speakers to our format and our program. And then also being very active in the Tableau community audit when TCs roll around. These are from 2 different years out there in both years in San Diego, right? The last 2 years, I think.
Yes, these are the last 2 years.
All right. Well, welcome, Amy. So I'm going to hand the baton to you, my friend.
Thank you, Celia. Hi, I'm Amy Wu. I am a business intelligence specialist at JLL. This is my LinkedIn, if you would like to connect. I have both Tableau certifications, and this is my 3rd year as an ambassador. The first 2 were as a forums ambassador. And I'll be talking a little bit about my data journey. It's been a privilege to be part of the data fam. This is me at the last conference. A lot of these people I speak to online most of the time, so it's pretty amazing to meet them in person. I also co-founded and co-lead a Tableau community group called EduVisitors, and this is the QR code to our website. We have monthly data sets. It's always free to join. 7 people that have used our data sets have gotten the Tableau Visit of the Days, and we focus on K-12 and higher ed data. I am also the co-lead of the Boston TUG. This is a presentation that I did at MIT in June. I also did this at the Austin TUG. This is a QR code to join our group. Sometimes we have virtual events, and so if you just want to be notified about our speakers, you can just scan this code and also join our TUG. So where did I get my start in data? I got 2 degrees in business, and so a lot of background in accounting and finance. Then I got a PhD in educational administration. I really focused on school finances there. And I worked for school districts for a couple of years, and I learned about Tableau. And Tableau is something I did for fun. I joined Makeover Monday, and I joined some of the other groups, and I just started getting involved with Tableau and just working at my skills, because I just love learning new things. And that's how I become part of the data fam, is that you just get connected with other people. There are so many other wonderful people out there, because Tableau helps you bridge all industries. Like data is a language that everyone speaks, and so it's always good. It's just neat to meet people from all over the world that have all different backgrounds. And I started answering questions about APIs because I just was really interested in them on the forums. And then I applied to become a Tableau Forums ambassador, and so that started my journey there. And I got my current job because I just really enjoyed doing Tableau, and so I applied for a Tableau job, and so that's my day now. And I feel like it's a life hack, because what I was doing for fun is now my job. I have 2 times visit days. This is one I did for an Austin data set that I found. The background I did was in Figma. Figma is a free tool. Lindsay Betzendahl has some good YouTube videos about it. And the spiral part, I learned to do from Tone Hom. He has a website called Tableau Magic, and you just kind of layer one on top of each other. It was just really fun to create stuff. What have I been learning? I recently read Learning AI Tools in Tableau by Ann Jackson. I'm really a fan of her work. She also wrote Tableau Strategies. And I would recommend reading this book just to find out what is happening in Tableau and how everything works with AI. It's just pretty cool. Like I read this on the way to conference, and then I was able to talk to people, the developers at Tableau, about the latest Tableau stuff, and it was pretty cool. And because I had the knowledge to understand what they were talking about. I also really love the Tableau LangChain project by Will Sutton. You can add you can connect to VizQL and talk to Tableau data sources now, which is just so cool. Put to create an agent so that you can talk directly to your data source with. Setting it up only cost me about $10. So it was very cheap and very, very cool. I recruited him to speak at the Austin Tug here in November. I recommend you listen to him because it's just amazing what's happening in Tableau. So people ask, like, what would I recommend when you're starting out? I would participate in a community project like EduVisitors. Shout out to my group. Also, you should start a Tableau Public portfolio because Tableau Public is free, and just start posting stuff and put it on LinkedIn and X and Blue Sky and just started getting connected with the community because that's how I started. I would also recommend getting your Tableau Specialist certification because it lasts forever. Sometimes there's student discounts, and sometimes during conference it goes on a bit of a discount, but it's really not much because it lasts forever. And if you plan to do this as a job, I think it'd be very helpful to have. And thank you very much for listening to me today. And if you would like to connect, I really like to hear from you. Thank you.
Right, team. We usually have a few questions for our spotlight guests. Feel free to type it into the chat or just to come off mute and ask Amy directly. And while we were waiting for others, have you done the NCP, the Will's project? I think you said you did, right?
Yes, I did Will's project. It's pretty cool.
That's awesome. Really cool. Okay, another question in the chat is, what made you want to start EduVisitors, Amy?
Well, I just felt like there was, I have a lot of knowledge about education data, and there just seemed to be a really large education community. And I thought it could be, I get a couple of people together and get some data sets. And we've had really, it's just been wonderful because we've had great feedback from people saying it's just, we really like your data set this month. And yeah, it's been really great. But I always say join any project that seems interesting because every group is great.
That's awesome. We also have a question from Jane. You may know, I know you know her from Boston as well, right? She was the our Iron Viz student a winner in 2024. She's curious about what your favorite education data set is.
Well, the data set that I showed on the green grants, that was pretty cool. That I just showed you, that's my favorite data set. I just felt like that kids getting extra money for schools is just always a wonderful thing. And it was it was just a joy to make. I was like, I know exactly what to do. I could put on books and you know, put some leaves around it. That's my favorite data set. But it was just like an Excel document I found on the Austin website.
I don't think that we got a chance to, I know that was on the slide, but y'all, Amy has a PhD in education, just gonna say. So this is interesting transition that she's made also. I guess, does that technically qualify you as a pivoter? I mean, just asking.
Well, I find that Tableau is the bridge across a lot of industries, and people, it wasn't taught really when I was in school. So
I agree, yeah.
We just got degrees in other things, right?
Right, truth.
Yeah,
Until recently, right?
Yeah, and so I think a lot of Tableau people are just from different backgrounds, but also it's wonderful because they have different perspectives, and they all bring different things to the community.
Right. Awesome. Yeah, and that domain expertise that you come in with from another industry, it can be just a huge advantage. Okay, team, what other questions would we have for Amy? All right, and just want to mention in the chat also, I see this shameless plug, Lisa. That's awesome. Because yeah, we have several education-based Tableau user groups. I go to one called HE, is a higher education tug, and Lisa's part of one that she'll tell you more about, but it's also for community colleges. I think, but it spans way more than that as well. Okay. One more final call. Anybody on questions? All right. Amy, thank you so much for carving out time and being with us today. Really appreciate you and the legacy that you've built here in Austin is I'm free, even though you and I missed as I came in, you were already gone, but I hear about you all the time. So thank you very much for the footprints.
Thanks, Celia.
Yes. All right, team, let me quickly share my screen. And hopefully you're seeing lovely Lisa. I just got a quick introduction, y'all. She's been an encourager in my own personal journey with Tableau, and has such a beautiful eye for design, and has led a lot of people down a path of being able to systematically do well with the dashboards and the communication that comes out of those dashboards. As you can tell by her credentials, with being a visionary 2 years running, and ambassador 3 years running, and then having, it seems like you kind of kicked off of a season, Lisa, by becoming Iron Viz champion, and then like really investing heavily in the community kind of alongside of that. So welcome and thank you for sharing today. I'm going to pass the baton to you, and hopefully we'll see how your share works.
Yeah. Well, thank you. Thank you for having me. It is kind of weird that Iron Viz is how I entered the community, but that's that's how it happened for me.
It's so interesting. Yeah. Right on.
But yeah, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for having me today. I'm excited to talk to you all about one of my favorite things to do in Tableau, which is hack the user interface. So I'm going to show you all how you can start kind of pushing your dashboards beyond the defaults that Tableau provides and create some more customized UI for your dashboards. And I'll give you a 5-step process on how to do that. It's not advancing. Okay, I won't spend much time here because Celia just did this for me. But yeah, so I'm a research analyst at MiraCosta College, which is one of the California community colleges. I started at MiraCosta 8 years ago, and that's when I started using Tableau. And then, like Celia said, since then I became a visionary and ambassador, and I won Iron Viz in 2021. And then I put the shameless plug for the California Community Colleges, or CCC TUG, in the chat. We are an education-focused group, but we tend to cover broader topics just with an education spin. So like, instead of using sample Superstore, we'll use sample education data. So still a lot of great information there if you want to come join us. And then I just started co-leading the Tableau public tug just 2 months ago. I also have a website, lisatrescott.com, where I post lots of tips and tricks, hacks, tutorials, all things Tableau. I also have a blog post. I'm going to put the link in the chat, but it looks like, so you guys can have it depending on your learning style. If you want to follow along in this, it's a blog post covering the content that I'm going to talk about today. But I know sometimes you just want to read it, or you want to have access to it after the presentation. So I just threw it in the chat so you all can have it. So what are we going to talk about today? We are first going to talk about what are UI, UX, why do you care about them? Why do you want them to be good in your dashboards? We'll cover what you need to be familiar with and what concepts you need to know in Tableau to create the things that I show you today. I will share my 5-step process for creating these UI elements in Tableau. And then I will open up Tableau and we'll do a little demonstration to show you how this process kind of comes to life. And I'm terrible at monitoring the chat while I present. So I'm going to take a pause between the 5-step process and the demo just to check in for questions and see how everyone is following along.
Great. And if there's something like urgent, I will surely let you know. Okay.
Just
Super
just
good.
interrupt me.
You got it. Thank you.
Yeah, so we'll start off by talking about what are UI and UX. So UI stands for user interface. This is basically everything that your user sees and touches and interacts with on your dashboards. It is every single touch point, right? Think about buttons, think about navigation, think about all of your menus, all of your icons, your help overlays, your charts, right? Anything a user is clicking on, hovering over, interacting with and seeing is part of the user interface. And so the focus of UI is really on how does it look and feel, right? The visual aesthetics and the visual components. So it's very designed focus. And so you're thinking about things like layouts, right? How is your dashboard laid out? What typography or font are you using? Kind of what color schemes, right? If you push a button, it gets darker. And if it's unchecked, it's lighter, things like that would be part of, common UI. UI's counterpart is UX, or the user experience. This is kind of more like the vibes that your dashboard gives. It's kind of the feeling your users get when they go through your dashboard, right? It is their experience using it. So it's things like, is it easy, right? Is it efficient, right? Does it load quickly? Does it function? Do your filters filter? Do your navigation buttons go where they're supposed to go? So it's really more about the experience of using that dashboard. While the focus of UI is more on the visual piece, UX is more on anticipating your users' needs and meeting them, right? So you want to try to create something that's intuitive for them, that they know where to go to find a filter or a navigation button, and they're able to get the information out of the dashboard that they want to, right? So they're having a positive experience. And I want to give you kind of an analogy outside of dashboards to explain UI and UX a little bit more. And I'm going to talk about it in terms of a restaurant, right? So if you were to go into a restaurant, the UI of that restaurant is all of those visual and interactive things. It's everything you see and touch, right? It's what does the menu look like? It's what does the place setting look like? Is there a candle on the table? Are there flowers? What's the decor? What's the lighting, right? All of those things you see and interactive would be like the UI of the restaurant. On the flip side, the UX is your experience, right? It's kind of your satisfaction and how you feel when you're there. Did you have to wait 2 hours for your table? Are you feeling frustrated? Is the staff friendly? Is your food coming out quickly? Does it taste good, right? Do you leave feeling satisfied? That would be like the UX of a restaurant. And when you have good UI and good UX, in a restaurant, you're getting 5-star Yelp reviews. People are coming back. And that's exactly what we want to do with our dashboards. We want people to come back to them and use them. So let's kind of talk about where your dashboards can fall in terms of where UI, this is plane of UI and UX. And you can probably guess what they're going to be, but we're going to go through them. So you could have bad UI and bad UX, right? We definitely don't want our dashboards here. I don't think most people's dashboards do live here, but it's a lot of times where we start. It's absolutely where my first dashboard was. I didn't think about how it looked. I didn't think how people were going to use it. I just threw some charts onto a dashboard and said, here you go. Here's the data you wanted, right? It didn't look good. It didn't really function all that well. It wasn't intuitive. People didn't want to use it, right? Because it didn't look good and it didn't function. We don't want that. No one's coming to this restaurant. No one's coming to this dashboard, right? On the other hand, you could have good UI and bad UX. This is where you've put a lot of effort and time into the design, right? It looks really good. The UI is nice, but the UX is really bad. So I like to think of this as like a clickbait dashboard, right? You might see a thumbnail on Tableau Public and you're like, oh, this dashboard is beautiful. I got to get in there. And then you start using it and you're like, oh, this doesn't work at all, right? The filters aren't working. This navigation button doesn't go anywhere, or I can't get back to my home screen. Like you're feeling frustrated, right? Same thing with a restaurant. This is like the restaurants that spend too much time making them Instagram worthy, and then their food is terrible and their service is bad, right? People are not coming back to this restaurant. They are not coming to this dashboard, right? You can also have bad UI and good UX, right? Things that don't look that great, but they function well, right? They serve their purpose. People can find the things they need. Dashboard renders quickly. People can get their data and they're good. It just doesn't look all that great. This is where I think the majority of dashboards live. This is where my dashboards live for a really long time. And I think the reason that is, or maybe one of the reasons, is because the UI of Tableau itself, it's pretty meh, right? Case in point, if you were at TC last year and at Devs on Stage, people were cheering for rounded corners, like mind-blowing, right? No, not mind-blowing. That is basic modern UI, right? And Tableau doesn't really have it, right? Like I mentioned up top, I've been using Tableau for 8 years. This is what a drop-down menu looked like 8 years ago in Tableau. And this is what it looks like today, right? And there is not a lot of things you can do natively within Tableau to format this, right? You can format the shading, you can format the font, and you can give it a border. Like that's it. Maybe soon we'll be able to round the corners, but who knows, right? So I feel like this is why dashboards tend to live here, right? People will use these dashboards because you know, they serve their purpose, but they're not going to capture people's attention. They're not going to really bring people back. These restaurants aren't getting 5-star reviews, right? The ones that are the ones that have good UI and good UX, right? These are things that look really good and they function really well. And this is where we want our dashboards to get. This is where we want to push them. And so I'm going to show you a link to a Tableau public dashboard where I have 8 examples of ways that I try to push the boundaries of the defaults in Tableau and push us into that kind of good UI, good UX. And it's this dashboard. And I think I'm going to have to unshare and reshare my screen really quickly, unless you all can see this, right? Can you see Tableau public?
No,
okay.
no.
I'll reshare it. Can you see it now? Yes.
We're
okay.
still seeing this. Maybe.
Can you...
Yes, where your cursor is, we can see.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so these are 8 examples. When I first put this presentation together, I went through all my workbooks at work and on Tableau Public and to look for the examples of kind of where I mess with the UI. And these are the 8 examples that I put together for all of you. Again, this is on Tableau Public. But the first one is a toggle. So you can use toggles for lots of things in Tableau. You can turn things on and off. You can include or exclude things from analyses. Anything that's either true or false, you can use a toggle to control. Here I'm using dark mode. So if I click this toggle, it's going to turn the background to a darker purple any minute now. And you can see you can flip it back to light mode, but we're just clicking a button rather than having to use kind of those native inputs that Tableau provides. The next one here is a button. Now, buttons are native features in Tableau. I'm not even really doing anything too crazy with the buttons here. I'm just using a show hide container. My advice here is that you design your own so that you have a nice cohesive icon library to use and your dashboards look much more consistent, right? You want things to have the same stroke and the same stroke color or fill if you're using a fill so that everything looks cohesive, whether you're using buttons to download data or link to something else or showing and hiding filters. I would just encourage you to design your own or use an icon library that is consistent. The next one is an alert. So I use alerts a lot on dashboards and I try to put them into this format that people are used to seeing, right? People know what an icon with a little red dot and a number means. It means, hey, I've got 5 emails, I've got 5 texts, I have 5 orders that shipped late, right? So you can add extra information into the tooltip. This is a Viz and tooltip just to give kind of that extra detail. I use these all the time. I work at a college, so we are constantly showing data for terms that are in progress. And we need people to know, don't rely on this data. We're still in fall 25. Like students are still coming and giving us data. Don't act like this is the end of the term, right? So there are things you might want to alert your users to kind of consistently like that. Next up, we have a stepper. So here we are using little minus and plus icons to add and subtract from a top end to change how many top manufacturers we're showing here. So just an easy visual way to allow your user to change that in kind of a more fun, interactive way. Then down here in the bottom left is a drop-down menu. I really don't like the drop downs in Tableau. You might have picked up on that from the PowerPoint slide. So I'm always designing my own. I actually have a whole workbook on Tableau Public just with ideas of how to format and design custom drop down menus. So like I said, it's on Tableau Public if you want to steal ideas from there. But the functionality is just like a regular drop down, right? Where you click on an option, it changes it. And I'm not sure my internet's going slow. It changed it over here on this map. You can click back into it and pick a different option and it will change that as well. So basic drop-down functionality. A nice alternative to drop-downs are tabs, especially if you have a really short list of things, like think less than 5 or fewer. Because they're very visual, right? They allow user to see exactly what's selected without having to drill back down into that drop-down menu. So it's nice, especially if people are going to screenshot something or share something out, you can automatically see what is selected. So I really like to use tabs a lot. And then these last two I'm going to show together because they solve a similar problem, which is a problem of not enough space, right? Real estate's always at a premium on my dashboards and people always want more, right? They want me to put 20 charts on one dashboard and it's overwhelming. So you can do something like put them in a carousel where the user can click through them at will, right? By using the dots or by using the arrows so that they can see things, but not all at one time. Same thing with an accordion menu here. Similar idea, we're just expanding and collapsing different areas of this depending on what the user wants to see. So they're really good space saving techniques and they look nice, right? They look better than some of the native things you can do in Tableau. So let's go back to PowerPoint. Okay, so for the focus of this presentation, I'm going to focus on these 6. The buttons and the alerts don't follow the same 5-step process, so we'll talk about just these 6. And we'll talk about what exactly you need to understand and be familiar with in Tableau to bring these things to life. There are 2 main features of Tableau to understand, and the first is parameters and parameter actions. These are really the backbone. This is the core concept of this whole process, right? All 6 of those ones I just showed you use parameters and their actions. And then 5 of those 6 also use dynamic zone visibility. So I'll give a high level overview of those 2 features. So parameters are universal values, right, that you put into your workbook and then you let your user control. And it allows for a dynamic input, right? They can change the top end and see something different. They can swap metrics. They can swap sheets. The use cases for parameters are endless, but it's really nice because they are dynamic. They make your vizzes and your dashboards dynamic. When parameters first came out in Tableau, the only way you could change the value of a parameter was by using those default things that Tableau provides, right? The dropdowns, the buttons, the type-ins, whatever. But then in 2019.2, Tableau introduced my most favorite feature of all time, which is parameter actions. This really kind of changed the game because now a user can click on one of your sheets or one of your vizzes, and that will change the value of the parameter, right? So instead of having to rely on those defaults, now they can click on a sheet. And that is the core concept to understand here. We're going to click on sheets that look like UI elements and send new values to a parameter, right? So keep that in the back of your brain. Just kidding. I'm going to make sure you understand the interaction or the interface of the parameter action. So when you go to set up a parameter action, there are a couple things you need to tell Tableau. You need to tell Tableau what sheet the user is going to interact with, right? What are they going to click on or hover over or do something to change the value of the parameter? That's your source sheet. You also need to tell Tableau how the user is going to interact with that source sheet. What are they going to do to it to change the parameter? Are they going to click on it, right? Select? Are they going to hover? Are they going to use a menu and a tooltip? What are they going to do to interact with the source sheet? You also need to tell it the target parameter, right? This is the parameter that's getting changed by this action. And then you need to tell the source field. This is the field that's going to get sent to the parameter when the user clicks on that source sheet. So this I feel like is like overwhelming and scary. So let's break this down into just a plain old regular sentence, right? What this interface is saying, what these menu selections are saying is when the user clicks, right? That's the run action. On tabs, that's the name of the source sheet. send region, source field, to the region parameter, the target parameter. That's it. When the user clicks on tab, send region to the region parameter. And I will say sentences like that all the time when I am making these actions, or more commonly troubleshooting these actions when I've made a mistake, because it's really helpful to kind of map out exactly what's going on. And so this is one of the examples I'm going to show in the demo, a little foreshadowing, and then this is what it looks like in action. So the user's clicking. When the user clicks on tab, right up at the top, send region to the region parameter, and that parameter is just filtering that map. So that's really what's going on. The other concept in Tableau you'll need to understand is dynamic zone visibility. So this is probably my second favorite feature in Tableau. When you pair parameter actions and dynamic zone visibility, it is a match made in UI heaven. Dynamic zone visibility is basically just a light switch where you can turn on and off different zones or areas of your dashboard based on your data, right? So your user can really tailor what they're going to see on your dashboard just by flipping things on and off. So I think of this as a data-driven light switch, right? And a light switch can either be on or off. So to control dynamic zones, you need a field that only has on or off. So you need a Boolean value. You need a Boolean field or parameter to flick a zone on or a zone off. And I will say too, I'm saying zones. Zones can be literally anything. They can be a container of things. They can be a single chart. They can be a filter menu. They can be an object, an image. Anything can be a quote unquote zone on your dashboard. And then once you have your light switch, right, your Boolean value, you just need to tell Tableau in the layout pane, hey, control this zone using that light switch. And I'll show you this in the demonstration. Okay, so those are the core concepts. Let's put them into a 5-step process before we jump into the demo. Because I've mentioned a couple of times, the core concept here are based on parameters and parameter actions. Step 1, you need to go get yourself a parameter, right? So make a parameter in your workbook that is going to control the UI element. Step 2, we're going to make a sheet in Tableau that looks like a UI element, right? This is what's going to be the source sheet in the parameter action, and it is just a sheet. So the secret here is that toggle, that stepper, that drop-down header, that carousel, that accordion header, those are all just sheets in Tableau, right? They're nothing fancy. I've just gotten creative with the different mark types, shapes, circles, whatever it is, bar charts sometimes, to create something that looks like something that people are used to, right? Like a carousel or a stepper or something like that. And this is actually my favorite step in the process because it allows you to get really creative. I love to go on Pinterest and Behance and see kind of different examples of UI elements and then try to recreate them or put my spin on them in Tableau. Okay, you've got your parameter. You have a sheet that's eventually going to control that parameter. Now we need to do something with that parameter, right? If you don't do anything with your parameter, nothing's going to happen. So I mentioned before, use cases for parameters are almost endless, but whether you're going to filter your data or swap your sheets or swap a metric or control dynamic zones, you got to do something with that parameter from step 1. And then step 4, you're going to control that parameter with an action on your dashboard. So this is, you're going to take that sheet from step 2 and let your user interact with it to change the parameter from step 1. And then the parameter is going to do whatever you told it to do in step 3. Now, in an ideal world, this would be the end. It would be a 4-step process and we would be done. But Tableau does some really annoying things by default that we're going to have to override. It creates a UI UX nightmare, and I'll get more into it when we get there, but I will just tell you, just a little foreshadow, step 5 is going to be a really hacky step where we're going to use a filter action to force Tableau to not act like Tableau. Okay, as promised, I will pause here. I'm giving you a lot of information, so I just want to check in and see how everyone's doing. Everyone's following. They're ready to jump into Tableau.
I think we're good.
Okay,
Lisa,
great.
thank you.
Fantastic. All right, the first one, actually, let me stay on that real quick. The first example I'm going to show you is that toggle. So we're going to click a toggle and it is going to turn dark mode on and off. Anytime you create a toggle, you're going to need to have 2 shapes in your Tableau repository. One that looks like a toggle's on and one that looks like a toggle's off. You can design these yourself. These are not complex shapes, right? This is just a rounded rectangle with a circle in it. It's nothing crazy. But if you don't feel comfortable designing them, again, there are tons of icon libraries where you can grab this. And I have some linked in that blog post I put at the beginning of the meeting. Okay, let me get Tableau and let's build a toggle. Okay, everyone seeing Tableau now? Yes. Okay.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, step one in the process, we need to make a parameter, right? This is the parameter that's going to control the toggle. So let's go up here to this little caret in our data pane and go to create parameter. And there we go, it popped up. And we're going to name this parameter, I'll call it toggle param, right? This is going to control our toggle. A toggle by default is on or off, right? It is true, false. So that means we need it to be Boolean. And you don't have to do anything else, or you could click OK, but I would always advise you to alias your true and false, just to remind yourself what the true and false means. So in our case, the true is going to mean that dark mode is on, and false is going to mean dark mode is off. Okay? And I'm just going to show this parameter, and you'll see why in a minute. Okay, check off step one. We're done. We made our parameter. Step two, let's make a sheet that looks like a toggle. So I'm going to do that with those two shapes that I showed you. So we're going to use a shape mark, and we're going to flip it back and forth to look on and off depending on what's selected by that parameter. And we're going to do that with a calculated field. So I'm going to use, this is my favorite hotkey of all time. I use this constantly all day long. It is Alt-A-C. That brings up the calculated field window just from your keyboard. So I'll say it again in case you missed it, but it's Alt-A-C. And so I'm going to call this P.toggle. You don't have to put a P dot in front of your calculation, but I deal with so many parameters and parameter actions. I like to put a P dot in front of any calculated field that has a parameter in it, just as a nice little trigger for my brain to remind myself, hey, you put a parameter in here, right? Don't forget that. And so this calculated field is going to control our shape. It's going to switch it between on and off looking shapes. But it also has a second function. It is going to be the source field for our parameter action, meaning it's going to send a new value to the parameter when the user clicks here. So we're going to wire it up to say, if the toggle parameter is true, if dark mode is on, then what do we want to send to the parameter to turn it off? When the user clicks on it, we want it to send false. Right? So it's kind of backwards, right? Dark mode's on. I want to turn it off when I click. So then we're going to send false, right? Because this is going to be that source field. Otherwise, if the toggle param is false, right? If dark mode's off, then I want it to flip to true when the user clicks on this sheet, right? So it's kind of a reverse thing here where it's on. So we're going to turn it off. It's off. So we're going to turn it on. And I'm going to click OK. Now I already changed my mark type to shape here. So we're just going to grab P.toggle and we're going to drag it onto shape. And Tableau is going to use its default circle, but we already know we're going to change that. So I'm going to go into my shapes and I'm going to go down to, come on Tableau, there we go. These toggle shapes that I have, and you're going to see false here. And you're like, oh, false, let's make it gray. Time out. Remember, this is why we alias that parameter. Dark mode is on right now. So we actually want this value to look like it's on, right? So because remember, the value that's getting sent is opposite. So it's a little bit of mental gymnastics. So we're going to use the purple one for false. And then when dark mode is off, we are going to use the light gray one. Okay. And now we have a parameter, or excuse me, a sheet that looks like a toggle is turning on and it's turning off. So that's step two. We're done. We made our toggle. Now step three, let's go use this toggle parameter to do something in our workbook. In our case, we have a pretty simple use case. I'm just going to turn on and off this dark mode background. So I have two different background images here. One is a light purple one is dark purple. I'm going to just use the layout pane to put this dark purple background at the 0, 0, so it overlays right on top of my light mode one. And now I'm going to control it using dynamic zone visibility and that toggle parameter. So with this selected, right, I've got my dark background selected. I'm going to go over to the layout pane and control visibility using value. And you're going to get a little drop down that opens up, and Tableau is going to say, what do you want to control this? And in our case, I want to control it with the toggle param. And I can't remember if we left it on or off. If it's off, dark purple is going to go away. So let's see what happens. Ah, it's off. Okay, so it's working. Right, let's bring our toggle, our toggle out. Not sure why oh, there we go. All right, so yeah, dark mode is off. You can see if I were to switch it back on, the dark background will come on and the toggle will turn to a darker purple. Again, if I turn it off, it will go off. So that's step 3. We used our parameter to wire up that dark background. Now I want to get rid of this, right? This is a whole presentation. I don't want this. I want to get rid of this Tableau default and just use the sheet. So I'm going to get rid of that and move on to step 4, which is adding a parameter action. So to add an action to your dashboard, you're going to go up to Dashboard and Actions. And then you're going to tell Tableau you want to add a parameter, a change parameter action. And this interface is what I showed you in the PowerPoint. Something I didn't mention in the PowerPoint is name this. Be kind to yourself and anyone who inherits this workbook, and name this action. Especially if you start using a lot of actions, you're not going to know what parameter 1 action was, but in a month from now. So we're going to call this toggle switch. And then we need to make those selections that I talked about in the presentation. We need to tell Tableau what the source sheet is. Now it's easy here. We have a dashboard with 1 sheet on it. That never happens in the real world, but this is obviously just a demo. So our source sheet is that toggle sheet. That's what we want the user to click on. And for run action, we're going to leave it on select. That means when the user clicks on toggle, what parameter do we want to change? We want to change the toggle param. And what field do we want to send there when the user clicks? Well, it's that one we built together, right? That p.toggle. It's going to send true or false depending on what is selected. So we'll click OK and OK. And now when I click on this sheet, my dark mode turns on. You think, yay, I'm in dark mode. This toggle works. But you know what? I actually like light mode better. I'm just going to click this toggle 1 time. Oh, that's weird. It didn't go back. I must have not clicked it. Let me click it again. There we go. Okay, but wait, I actually do want to go back to dark mode. Just kidding. So I'm going to click this 1 time. Weird. That didn't work either. Why do I have to click this 2 times to get it to work? Well, this is that wonky Tableau behavior that I told you we were going to have to override, right? This is just Tableau being Tableau, right? When a mark gets selected in Tableau, let me do it on the light gray. When you click on a mark in Tableau, that's this black outline, right? Tableau is by default selecting that mark. And the way you deselect it is by clicking on it again. So if I click on it again, you'll see that black outline goes away. That's fine on your regular charts. But if you are trying to have this be a toggle that a user just clicks on, that's not fine, right? If I had to double click my alarm toggle every night, I would oversleep every day. Right, so we don't want that. That's a UI UX nightmare. We don't want people double clicking a toggle. So this is where step 5 comes into play and we start to get super hacky. We're gonna do a fun little filter action to negate this behavior. So I'm gonna go back to toggle and I'm gonna create 2 dummy fields. Dummy fields are just like, they're nothing, right? There's no real purpose. They're dummies. So I'm gonna call this dummy, whoops, I can't spell, dummy 0. And I'm just going to put the number 0 in quotation marks. And I'm going to click OK. And then I'm using Alt-AC again, dummy 1. And I'm going to put the number 1 in quotation marks. Doesn't matter what values you put in these fields. They could be anything. I've just gotten into the habit of using 0 and 1, but you can use true and false, A and B, X and Y. I know Kevin Wee is another Tableau visionary. He uses apples and oranges because he's really fun and that's super cute. I'm really boring. I use 0 and 1. So whatever you want to use doesn't matter. They just can't be the same 2 values, right? 0 and 1 are not the same value, so we are in good shape. I'm going to grab these and I'm going to drag them to detail on my toggle sheet, and they're effectively going to do nothing, right? Because they're dummies. Then I'm going to go back onto this dashboard and I'm going to go up to dashboard and action, but instead of adding a parameter action, I am going to add a filter action. The interface here looks very similar. Where did it go? Oh, there it is. looks very similar to the parameter action. Name it, right? Name this. I'm going to call this deselect toggle. And then just like the parameter action, we have to tell Tableau what the source sheet is, right? This is the sheet the user clicks on. The run action, I need to change to select. The target sheet is toggle, but if you have more than one sheet in your dashboard, which you likely will, you can't click it, you can't select it from this little checkbox menu. You actually have to click it from the drop down. Otherwise, this isn't going to work. So go to your drop down and select a sheet from there. And then when you clear the selection, you need to make sure you show all the values. If you don't do this, your toggle is going to disappear as soon as your user clicks on it, which is not what you want. And then you're going to go down to the selected field and you're going to find those two dummies and you're going to filter them on each other, which effectually does nothing, right? Because they don't equal each other. They're never going to filter each other. It doesn't do anything. But for some reason, this is going to negate that default behavior. And I should have said this before. Like I said, this is a hack. I don't necessarily know why this works. I don't know what's going on under the hood of Tableau that is allowing this to override that behavior. And I really don't like that I can't tell you that, right? But I have scoured the internet trying to understand this so I could tell people why. I don't think that anybody knows why. It's just something that someone figured out one day, which means you kind of just have to memorize these steps, which is never a great way to learn, right? Memorization. But these steps are laid out in that blog post that I put up at the beginning of the meeting, so they're there. I'll also share another blog post by Brian Moore, who's a Tableau visionary. He provides a couple of more examples on how to get rid of this behavior. Suffice it to say, this hacky filter action works because now I have a situation where I am single clicking this toggle and it is going back and forth. So we've overridden that default behavior in Tableau, allowed our user to just do a single click, which is going to be much better for the UI and the UX. So that is the toggle. I have another example, but I do want to just check in with everybody, see how people are feeling, if they're up for another example, if they're feeling overwhelmed, you let me know. Oh, can I show you the toggle switch action again? Yes, I can. So this is the one where you're going to tell the source sheet is toggle, right? That's the toggle sheet that we made. You're going to run it on select. The parameter you're going to control is the one we created in step 1, that toggle param. And then the field, the source field that's going to get sent there is that p.toggle. This is why it had to be opposite of what the value of the parameter was, because it's sending the opposite value when you click. So if dark mode's on, true, it's going to send false when the user clicks it. So that's kind of how the source field works. Any other questions? You guys want to do another example?
I think yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
okay, good. We're having some
Okay.
yeses too.
Okay, just making
Yes,
sure I don't
please.
want to overwhelm anybody.
No, this is great.
Okay. So the other example, oh wait, let me show you the PowerPoint. Where did that go? The next example we're going to do is those tabs that I showed you a couple of times before, where the user is clicking on a tab and it's filtering this map. So here, I just want to point out that the tabs are turning purple and getting that purple underline when we click on them and filtering the map. So I just wanted to point that out. And now let me go back into that demo workbook. Okay. All right. We are back to step 1. We need to create a parameter here that's going to be used with our tabs. And in this case, we're making tabs for region. So we need to make a region parameter. I'm going to do this one the lazy way, or the efficient way, I guess, depending on how you look at it. If you have a field in your data set already, you can right-click on it. Maybe right-click on it and go down to create parameter, and then sit back and let Tableau do the work. I don't know why my computer is going so slow, but I promise you it's going to pop up. There it is. Okay, so it named it, right, region parameter. It set the data type to string and the current value to central, but the more important thing is it added all of the regions here. I didn't have to type any of those, right? This is great when you have a really long list of things that's not just for short little titles, right? So I create parameters like that all the time, super fast and easy. And now we can check off step 1. We made our region parameter. Step 2, we need to make a sheet that looks like some tabs. So let's go do that. And like I said, I want these tabs to be for the region. So I'm just going to grab a region from my data pane. And I'm going to drag it onto columns. And then I'm going to drag region onto text as well. And I'm just going to format it to be in the middle. And I'm going to make it bold too, just so you all can see it. Oops, bold it. And we'll hide our headers. Now, I could leave it like this, right? I could leave it as a text mark, but I'm not going to, because there is some weird UI stuff going on with text marks in Tableau that kind of I don't like. When you hover over a text mark in Tableau, Tableau puts this black outline around it. Like, that's not great for UI, right? If you're going to hover over a tab in the real world on a website, that's not going to be the UI that you see. So I don't like that. But even more something that I don't like even more is if I were to click on this, which we are actively going to invite our users to do, I get this blue box of death, right? No one, I don't want that. That is going to be terrible for my UI. So I need to fix that. So the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to go over to my marks and I'm going to change this to a shape. And Tableau is going to do its default open circle. But I'm going to change this and I'm going to change it to a transparent shape. So the Flair-Lash twins actually have a really great blog post about all the different use cases for transparent shapes. It's linked in that blog post that I put in the chat in the beginning. But I use transparent shapes in pretty much every workbook that I use. I use them so often that I force them to the top of my Tableau repository. If my Tableau repository would open. Oh, don't crash on me. But a transparent shape is just a shape that has no color or fill or stroke applied to it. It is basically invisible. And when I open this up, it looks like there's nothing there, but fake out, there is. It's hiding right here. It's just a square that has no color and no stroke. So when I click on that, you'll see it gets assigned to my shape, and I'm going to click OK. And now when I hover over my regions, there's no black box, right? That's much cleaner. And when I click on it, I don't get that blue box. I do get the Tableau default behavior that I got before, where it is basically selecting the mark and graying out the other ones, but we know how to fix that now, so we'll deal with that. Okay, the next thing I want to do is I want to change the color of the label to be dark purple when it's selected, and I want it to be gray when it's not selected by the parameter. So we're going to do that with a calculated field. Alt-AC, here it is again. I'm going to call this p.region. Again, the parameter is going to be in this calculated field, so I put a p dot there. And I just want a true if the region matches the region parameter. So I'm just going to ask Tableau, does my region equal my region parameter? And that's the whole calculation, right? This will be a true if it does and a false if it doesn't. And I'm going to grab tp.region and I'm going to drop it onto color. And as soon as I do that, you're going to see nothing happens. But just kidding, something did happen. You just didn't see it. There is a color palette applied, but you can't see it because I used a transparent shape, right? I will prove it to you. There is color applied to this shape, but the transparent shape just doesn't pick it up. So why on earth did I bother doing this? It's because I want to just use, I'm lazy. You're going to pick up that from this presentation. I'm lazy. I don't want to write multiple calculated fields to put on label to change and then format them differently. I just want to go in and match my mark colors on my font. And then the labels pick up the color, but the background image does not. So it's a much faster and more efficient way to apply a color palette to your text if you don't actually have anything on the background. So now I just got to change the color palette. I don't want the blue and orange. I'm going to change the true to be that purple and the false to be, oops, this light gray. We'll make it a little darker to see it. And now we have dark purple text when it's selected. Let's show that parameter so you can see, right? Central selected, so it's in dark purple. If I choose south, now south is in dark purple, right? Because it's picking up that color palette. Okay, that's step 2. All done. Step 3, let's go use this parameter in our workbook. So the way I'm going to use it is I'm just going to filter this map based on whether or not the region is selected in the parameter. So I'm just going to use that field I just created, that p.region that's going to return a true or a false, and throw that onto filters and only retain the true values. Click OK. And now we just have that one region. We're not done using this. We're still in step 3. Remember the functionality that I showed you. There was the text turned purple, but there was also a purple underline. And the way I got that to format kind of like a thicker, nice, bold line was by using blank objects on the dashboard. So this is just a container full of blank objects that I set up before this presentation. I didn't think anyone wanted to watch me put 7 blank objects in a container and then distribute them evenly, right? The contents are distributed evenly, but they just alternate dark purple, clear, dark purple, clear, dark purple, clear. Oops, I deleted one. And all we're going to do is we are going to control these objects, these blank objects, using dynamic zones. Remember, I told you anything on your dashboard can be a zone. And here's an example of that. These are just blank objects that we're going to control with the light switches, right? So in this case, I am going to need 4 light switches. Let's just format this and get all this stuff out of here. I need a light switch to turn on this underline when central is selected. I need a light switch for the east underline, the south, and the west. So we're going to need 4 calculated fields to control those zones. And I don't want to have to go back to this sheet to create it. I'm going to create the calculated fields right here on the dashboard just by clicking on a sheet. Any sheet will do. And hitting my favorite hotkey again, Alt-A-C. And now you can create calculated field on your dashboard. So we'll call this P. Oh, that's not Excel Central. P.central, and we'll say, does the region parameter equal central? Right, so that's going to return true or false depending on whether that's selected. Click OK, and then we just need to do that 3 more times. P.east, does my region parameter equal east? P.south, is it south? And then 1 more light switch for west. Does that parameter equal west? Now we have 4 light switches. So let's go control these 4 blank objects using dynamic zones. So I'm going to click on this one on the far left. That's going to underline central. Remember, in the layout pane is where we access dynamic zones. And we check this box, control visibility using value. And then one thing I didn't mention before, but I'll mention it here, that's really helpful that Tableau does. It only shows you your light switch calculated fields, right? It only shows you your Boolean values. Anything that you could possibly control dynamic zones with is going to be listed here. So that's just a nice little feature. So right now, south is selected. So when I control this blank object with P.central, it is going to vanish like it should, right? Because it's not underlined right now. Same thing with east. This is going to go away when I control it using P.east. South is going to stay there because this is going to underline south, and that's what's already selected. And then west is going to disappear because we're going to control it with this one. And now let's just format this a little bit. Let's just pull this up so it looks like an underline. In the real world, I would put these in a container together so they were perfectly aligned, but just for time, we won't do that. Now you can see when I change this, it looks like these tabs are underlined, but really it's just a blank object that is being controlled with our dynamic zone visibility. So after all of that, we are done with step 3 now. Let's go on to step 4 and get rid of this and add a parameter action so the user can just click on these tabs instead of using that drop-down menu. And we'll go up to dashboard and actions. And this one should look very familiar because this was the example that I put into the presentation. We're going to call this select region. The source sheet is going to be the sheet the user clicks on, tabs. The run action is select. These users are clicking on tabs. The parameter they're changing is the region parameter. The field they're going to send there is region, right? So whenever the user clicks on one of those regions, it's going to send that to the parameter. And we'll click OK and OK. And now we have some functioning tabs. Maybe. There we go. My computer's just very slow. So it is working, but it is doing what the toggle did, which is it's selecting these and it's making these other ones really light gray, which from an accessibility standpoint, it's not great. That's very light, right? It's not as problematic as the toggle because it's not forcing, a double click, but aesthetically, that's not great. Accessibility wise, that's not great. So we're going to add that hacky filter action again. In this workbook, I already have the dummy field created, dummy 0 and dummy 1. We're going to throw them onto the detail shelf of our tabs. Nothing's going to happen here. We'll go back to our workbook and add a filter action. Maybe. There we go. Filter action. And we will call this deselect tabs. The source sheet, what's the user clicking on? Tabs. So we'll uncheck the map. The run action is going to be select. And then remember, your instinct is going to be to just check the target sheet from this checkbox. Don't do that, or it's not going to work. You got to select it from this drop down. Show all values when the selection is cleared, and then filter those dummies on each other as the source and target field here. So we will find dummy 0 and dummy 1, and we'll click OK and OK. And now we don't get that issue, right? Now everything is staying the color that we selected before, and it's not getting grayed out when we select those tabs. So that was 2 examples of how to create some customized UI in Tableau. I do have some resources. I could not find that word. I'm going to put this one in the chat. This one is, oh, and you probably can't see this. Let me share. This is
we're seeing the resource page. Oh, go ahead.
Oh,
Yes.
yeah. Okay. So this is a blog post from Brian Moore. He gives 3 different ways to deactivate that highlighting behavior in Tableau, the one that was so problematic. I'll put this in the chat for you. He does highlight 2 other ways other than the filter way I showed you. But the reason I always use the filter is because it works every time. Some of the other methods only work with specific mark types. So I just pretty much always use the filter method. I also have a link here for how to start learning UI. So UI is not super intuitive. I love this blog post. It has tons of different lots of articles and content. It also has a really nice start here place where they have just kind of a couple of places for you to kind of get started on your journey. And then the last thing I wanted to share was this color palette generator, which is really cool. I use this to create the color palette for my presentation. It's specifically tailored to be like a UI color palette generator. So you can just, type your hex code in here or, select it from, the color picker and kind of see what this would look like in different situations to kind of get the UI you want before you actually start applying it in Tableau. And that is everything. So again, I know I checked in. Oh yeah, Amy mentioned that Brian Moore is the co-lead of the Boston Tug. So he was also at the CCC Tug last month, the month before. Really, really fantastic visionary and great person. So again, just if there are questions, please yell at me. I have not been monitoring the chat. So if there's anything that I missed.
There was a question about resources for the bars that have rounded edges.
So
Katie, you want to say any more about that?
Yeah.
Yeah, I was just wondering what program you're using to create kind of those background images. Do you have a preferred one? I use PowerPoint to create just a bunch of kind of dummy images and wondering if you had a preference.
Yeah, you can use PowerPoint. I used to use that before, and then I learned Illustrator, but you don't have to use Illustrator. That's like sledgehammering it. You can easily just use PowerPoint. I know Figma is really popular too, and I think there's a free option for that. But yeah, so most like the little image that I had behind the tabs is a background image, since we still can't round those corners in Tableau. But hopefully that will be there soon, and we can stop using background images for that kind of stuff. But until that day, yeah, I usually create backgrounds in Illustrator.
Okay. Yeah. No, that answers my question. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat, but if anybody has one, feel free to come off mute and just voice it to Lisa directly. We're all friends here.
Yeah.
It's a safe space.
And if something comes up afterwards, feel free to message me on LinkedIn. I can put my link in the chat. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Please do that.
Okay, let me do that.
We had several people over here talking about how informative this was. Lisa, thank you so
good.
much. Yeah, game changer. Taking that to a whole nother level of polish and professionalism.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm glad people like it and find it useful.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will say
Absolutely.
too, I would not recommend doing this with like every single thing on your dashboard. I do create custom drop-down menus a lot, but I will do that for like an overarching thing, like a time frame. Like I'm at a college, so it's always like the term. What term do you want to see? And then the rest of my filters, because people always want like 15 filters. I'm not custom drop-down menuing every filter, right? And that's
Mhm.
gonna affect your UX too, right? It's gonna make things a lot slower if you
That's a
put
good
too
point.
many actions in. So I wouldn't make like every single touch point customized, but kind of maybe the more prominent ones is just a nice touch.
Any other questions, team?
I want to make a comment that Lisa did a great job of helping us kind of look at our own work differently, with a more discerning, more critical eye. And I think that's something we can all use because it's so easy to get into these road patterns and habits of doing everything the same way all the time and not really thinking about how is the information received? Is it hard? Is it, as you said, is it a restaurant you want to go back to again? I think that's a great metaphor. I like that a lot, you know. Because, like restaurants, the first time you go, you think the food's okay, but the second time, maybe it's not as appetizing, So if people
Yeah.
are looking at your dashboards weekly over and over again, just adding something new here and there once in a while will keep people interested. Said, oh, wow, look what I can do now that I couldn't do before.
Yeah, even just like adding a button, people are
Yeah,
like, "Hey, I saw now I can change this with a button." I'm like, "Yeah, you can." Like, it's
yeah.
exciting. And a lot of times, I don't know what other industries experienced during COVID, but a lot of toggle switches entered our dashboards during COVID because it was like lots of weird anomaly situations, like specific excused grades and specific grants that like were only available in the 2020, 2021 timeframe. So we needed to include and exclude those things a lot. And we're like, well, let's start putting toggles on. So it's just like this visual, like obvious thing. Oh, I just see there's a question. The last resource being the color palette, Kathy. I put it back. Maybe I didn't put it in the chat. It's just a color palette generator. I like to use it because it'll show you like, hey, this is a good color to use within, like you can put your brand colors in.
Yes.
And then it'll show you kind of like, oh, this is a lighter color to use for a button that's not pushed, and use the darker color for the button that is pushed, kind of thing.
Yeah, your Makeover Monday for Valentine's had such a beautiful color palette in it, and definitely not one that was a standard one for Tableau. I was like hunting for that. It was
Oh,
beautiful.
thank you. Yeah, it's rare for me to use a color palette from one of Tableau's defaults. My
Mhm.
preference file is like a mile
I would
long.
imagine so. I would imagine so. Yeah. Do you happen to have, I know we normally do a little bit of networking at the end, and I think we're going to be really kind of close on time. Do you mind showing what you did for the Iron Viz? Would that be okay?
Oh yeah,
I know that we didn't ask you to do that in advance, but
that's okay. Let me find it.
yeah, the buttons was zone visibility. What a game changer, right?
Oh, these are those custom drop-down menus. I only put this link in the chat. This is me saying I don't like the drop-down menus in Tableau. It's in the chat.
I don't think that I knew this about you.
Maybe that should be the title of your
Yeah,
presentation.
give us other options for drop-down menus.
Yeah, I
Right?
don't like the drop-down buttons in Tableau. That'll get your
You mean the
attention.
actual Iron Viz itself?
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah,
the
so our
real
data
deal.
set was about breakthrough artists. We had all this like
Mhm.
Shazam and YouTube data.
Mm-hmm.
And then I used I went through and I found 3 artists who kind of shot up out of obscurity
Mm.
and highlighted them. So we had like this ranking system that they had. So I pulled out these 3 artists. And then I don't think pages work super well in Tableau Public, but maybe it's working.
It'll try.
Yeah,
Yes.
see, it's trying.
Yes, it is
It's
trying. I
trying
see
to do
that.
its thing.
I love Pages Shelf.
Yeah, I don't know why Tableau Public it has such an issue. but yeah, I kind of narrated what was going on as we went through, and you could see them kind of popping up on the map as it, yeah, it's not popping up on the map as it goes along, and all of a sudden they were all everywhere, all over this map over
Mm-hmm.
time.
So were you showing the history? It looks like you are showing the history on the page. So have you had any issue with having to turn off the animation for the worksheet to get the history to show? Seems like when the animation page or feature first came out, there was a conflict between page of shelf, show history, and the animation. If animation was on for that worksheet, have you had any? Is this?
I have not, but I don't know, maybe I just haven't used that functionality. I don't know if animations is on.
Mhm.
This was a while ago now.
Yeah, no, this is true. Actually, in 21, I don't know that animations have been released yet. That
I
seems
don't
like
know that
that's
it
more of
had
a,
been, now that I'm
I think
thinking
it was
about it.
23-ish time frame, now that I'm thinking about it. But
Oh, it does say they're on. In
oh, are
fact.
they? Okay. And there's, yeah.
But yeah, I didn't have any issues. I mean, honestly,
Okay.
though, it was all designed in desktop and displayed in desktop during the competition. So
Sure.
to be honest, I never tested it in Tableau Public until the day it was supposed to be released.
Yeah, okay, that's
So,
fair. What
yeah.
was your, so what was the, like your takeaway with these three artists regarding their breakthroughs?
They all kind of had different stories, and I hid that up here just,
Oh, cool.
so there wasn't
Of
so
course you
much
did.
text.
Yes, I see that.
Yeah, so I was noticing, I kind of went outside the data set to get their stories, because I mean, when you're just looking at Shazam and YouTube, it's kind of hard to know exactly what's going
Right,
on. But then
sure.
I started researching, like, oh, there was this TikTok video that showed this song, like this featured this song in it. And
Mm,
that's when all of a sudden he was, coming, like
right.
all his songs were getting Shazammed. That's when you kind of see this, like, oh, whoa, here they all are.
Mm-hmm.
Kid Leroy kind of started out in Australia. He's Australian. And then just kind of like slowly spread when he had this one song come out. And then Olivia Rodrigo was just like, boom, driver's license hit. And she was like an overnight sensation. Like, people just were obsessed with her
Mm-hmm.
song.
Wow.
And it's funny because I remember it was the summer before Iron Viz. I didn't know I was in it. I hadn't even done the qualifiers. And I was at a family function, and my cousin put driver's license on, and I was like, who is it? Because I'm not like, I don't know music. I'm not hip.
Okay.
She put this song on, and I was like, what is it? She's like, what? You don't know who Olivia Rodrigo is? Like, where have you been? And I was like, I never heard this. And then I was in the data and was like, oh,
under a rock, like all the rest of us parents.
I know.
Right.
Then when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is what Natalie was talking about. Like, this is that girl. This is that song. She was
That's
right.
part
Maybe
of
she knows it's true.
your final project here. That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it was just kind of like
That's
a
incredible.
weird memory around it. But
Yeah, that's incredible.
um,
Wow.
yeah, it was Iron Viz.
Very nice.
And
I'm
the
glad to see.
qualifiers are opening up again soon, I believe. They should be here in October. So I know next week the Tableau Public Tug, another shameless plug, is featuring some Iron Viz qualifier top 10s and talking about all things
Okay.
Iron Viz, if people want to pop into that and get some advice and tips for entering.
Really good. And speaking of that, it seemed like when, so I helped out with the qualifier judging last year, and it seemed like that we had a criteria of how much of it was done inside of Tableau versus how much of it, is that, am I remembering that correctly? I
Yeah,
mean, it
that's
may have
part of the
changed.
analysis. I think
Yeah.
that it's all done in
Mhm.
Tableau.
Yeah.
I
So,
think I'd have to look up the judging criteria again. I think it's different from when I participated.
Mhm.
But yeah, I think they want most of your design. Well, like the text, they want text to be text in Tableau.
Yes.
I feel like if you put
Oh, this is just
there's
really
not a lot
cute.
of
This
fonts you
dog
can
just
use in
got a dog
Tableau, right?
poop.
So if you want to get
And it's
creative,
like,
you have to use a
well,
Tableau
it's like
font.
all curled up.
But
like
there
that.
are I feel like you can make an image and then just give it alt text, and that, to me, that's the same hitting the same criteria, but
Yeah, yeah,
don't quote me on that because I'm
yeah.
not judging.
Yeah, yes, yes, I have the debate between, well, and the reality of in any sort of production circumstance, there's a there's a measure of time. And if you can create something quickly and pull it in as a background or something and get
Oh, in the finals for sure. I don't know how you would format all that text in 20 minutes. I used a background image. I think everyone in my year used one. I think they all used one last year too. Like it's pretty common to at least for like your headers and things to put it in a background image.
Yeah, make it really fast. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Lisa, what a great session. Thank you so much for sharing with us and giving us such great encouragement and ideas and instructions. Wow. You sure you're not a teacher? I'm just saying. It's just so clear and articulate and easy to follow. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Any final questions, y'all, before we go ahead and call it for the day? I think we usually close up at 5, so we're gonna not do any kind of separated networking right now. Instead, just if you got any open questions, we got a couple more minutes. Otherwise, we'll give everybody a couple minutes back. All right. Well, please scoop some of the information out of the chat before you go. And we look forward to, I'm going to borrow the screen for just a minute. Please consider joining us in October for a little bit of a focus in on AI and Tableau. We'll do a little bit of Tableau next, but also just generally more broadly about AI and Tableau. And then November, we'll have Will Sutton coming in. And then if you're anywhere near Austin area, I encourage you to join us for our holiday get together, which is one of our we do a few in-person things through the year. And, usually one around the middle winter Christmas time. And then we do one, we just did a really cool one that this team put together last month in August. So we'd love to see y'all, and thank you for joining us. And Lisa, again, thank you. And Amy, thank you for being here and sharing from your experience and the journey that you guys both have had with the analytics industry and tools and all. It's just really very inspiring. So if there's nothing else, we'll see you guys hopefully in October or in those other tugs that we mentioned today. Just saying. All right. Thank you, Lisa. Appreciate it. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.